So my girlfriend is out of town. So that means I'm gonna make a YouTube video and eat pizza. Welcome back to another video, guys. I'm chasing So I was off the grid for about 8 or 9 months, and there's a pretty good reason for it. I just didn't want to make videos. You know, I got really tired of actually trying to keep up with the pressure of making these videos and stuff like that, or at least doing them weekly. And so I just kind of took some time off. And I talked about this before in the past, like up here, where I think it's actually like a really great idea to kind of like just decompress, take some time off. I took it a little too far. So jump cut ahead to 2019, and basically one of the huge things that kind of got me back into making videos for YouTube was the fact that the Moment Invitational is coming in. Now this is something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. You know, I've always been really inspired by people that actually make short films, because it takes a lot to be able to put yourself into something fully and then kind of create like this unique vision and then share it with the world and just kind of fingers crossed that it's going to be worth it. It's not every day that you actually get to create some content with just your phone and kind of keep it up to the standards that you would when you have like some really amazing gear. So what I wanted to do was actually talk about the process that I've been going through while building up my story, you know, and basically kind of show everything with you before I actually have to share the video on YouTube. So right now, as you're watching this, is basically the end of February. So I actually have about a little less than a month left to be able to shoot, edit, and then deliver my submission for the film festival. So I've only had like a few days really kind of like planning this out, but I really wanted to kind of put a lot of time and effort into this. I wanted to do something right. What I kind of did was this. I had an idea. It starts out very simple. Okay, I wanted to do something kind of like a horror or a thriller or something like that. I've never done it. I figured it'd be a lot of fun, and I love horrors. So I kind of came up with an idea, something more suspense-based, where I don't really have a budget or, you know, any costumes or anything like that to necessarily make a like monster or something. Next up, I kind of had an idea of like what location I wanted to do. Now with this in particular, you know, I wanted to do something where, you know, right now it's winter time in New York City. I wanted to do something out in the woods where, you know, time didn't really matter. It could be taking place in present day, it could take place in the 1600s, it doesn't even matter, because the woods are kind of timeless. Next up, I just wanted to make it as simple as possible. I wanted to keep it as one character. So throughout the entire thing, it's a 3-minute short film. I wanted to make it so that one person could tell an entire story based on just like their reaction, their emotion, or just their general fear. Now to do all this, it sounds really simple enough, but you can't really tell a story with just these things unless you actually build it out. So this way it was something simple where like now I also have a prop. I can actually just go out and get a bunch of salt. I can make these little salt rings. And now all of a sudden, like you have something that you can relate to. Like this is his safe zone. So what happens if that gets disrupted? So that's my plot point and twist right there. So as I'm going through, you know, it's like writing this, there is a point where I kind of hit a wall. Now for me, this is where things got a little fun and something very different, something that maybe other people do. I've never really done it, but I thought it was pretty interesting. And what I did was actually create a score of my own for this video. So what I actually did to make this score was take 3 separate songs from MusicBed. Went over there, I signed into my account, I grabbed the songs, and it was so easy to use because their system is just amazing. And basically, I just kind of like listened to each track. You know, I actually downloaded like I think like 10 different songs, but blending them together and like kind of cutting them up, making them fit so that, you know, they could work better was really what kind of like tied everything together. So one of the things that's really amazing about DaVinci is basically that in Fairlight, their audio editing suite, you're able to actually do pitch shifting. So a couple of the tracks were actually not really matching in the same key. I loved the vibe, it was the same tempo, but it just wasn't really delivering what I was looking for when I was trying to like line them up, because it just doesn't sound right. So I was able to actually shift the key from a couple of the other tracks to make it so that they were all in the same key. So when I lined everything up and played it, it actually sounded like it was, you know, playing off the same song. So when I was able to do that, cut it up, play around with it, and make it really, really nice. And that was something that was so simple because it kind of took a lot of the stresses away of like having to worry about, oh, I have to make something, or, you know, like searching for hours and hours more. You know, I was on MusicBed for 5 minutes. I typed in the parameters that I wanted to use, and then all of a sudden, boom. I was able to kind of get this perfect song in conjunction with using DaVinci Resolve. So going back, I now have the score already set up. Everything is actually looking good. But at the end of the day, when you just have a song, there's only so much that you can actually visualize. One of the most important things about video that most people completely overlook is sound. Now, you can actually have amazing video quality and then terrible sound, and it just kind of makes you feel gross. But you can actually have terrible video quality and amazing sound, and you feel so immersed in it. So what I actually did was download a ton of Foley, which is basically like sound samples of things like footsteps, doors opening and closing, bags dropping, body hits, things like this that actually kind of like build up the image of what's actually happening without a single frame of actual visual imagery. So I did that, I went along, and I, in my head, had kind of already the idea of like what I was going to have my character doing, running through the forest. I wanted to have these footsteps just kind of chasing along. I added these sounds, and it makes it a very, very rich, full sounding and very busy looking timeline. But when I was done with that after about like an hour or so, I kind of hit a point where in my story I wasn't able to remember, or at least like I hadn't really gotten far enough to figure out what I wanted to do. So that made it really simple though, because then I was able to visualize things by adding more sound. So like, what if he was walking on a creaky wooden floor? That creaky wooden floor gave a very different approach to something rather than just like walking on concrete. When I started playing around with these other sounds and introducing them, it kind of gave me the idea, okay, I know the interior shot that I want to have. So because of that, I was able to paint the rest of the picture and write out the rest of the script. And then all of a sudden, I also knew that that's something I have to look for. I have to find, some kind of like cabin in the woods or something like that where I can actually finish off this scene because it was super important. Now again, this is kind of crazy processing. I don't think many people write an actual script by going through like the reverse engineering of things. Basically outside of actually having shot anything visually, I already had the whole thing done. But one of the things that's actually so important about telling a story is actually to have a nice element of symmetry, to understand what the points are going to be hitting at a certain time. At the end of the day, if I just write these things out, and I don't really have a good idea of where those are going to hit at a certain time, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So what I did before I actually finished with all the audio engineering was to put everything down on a timeline. And so what I did was I basically kind of measured the halfway point in my script, and I kind of just made a little mark on a circle. Then I made my quarter point, my 3/4 point, and then my end point. And when I looked at those, I was able to actually kind of see the patterns that were arising. And noticing that maybe at this part, there were certain shots of him, running in the woods at this point, but then maybe that could mirror itself on the 3/4 point across the board. Maybe on, the 5 o'clock part of the clock, there was something that was happening, but then it gets resolved just on the opposite end of that on the other side of the clock. Knowing these little things actually really helps to actually paint the picture for you and also make sure that everything kind of has a cohesive flow and a time, because at the end of the day, it's very, very simple to rush things and then delay others, make things that are too quick and then also like just drag things on that don't really need to be because you just didn't plan it out this way. So when I actually had this like little visual grid on mind, it made it very, very simple for me to actually be able to just apply that back into the audio stuff, move around my samples so that all of a sudden I had an audible representation of what I had already been doing on this little story clock. Now keep in mind, I haven't even filmed anything yet. I've basically just kind of gone out of my way and built the entire story, but I've done it in a way that's a little different than what most people do. So at the end of the day, having like the storyboard and the score and everything kind of set up for somebody to be able to just listen to it on their phone and then read as it's going, following along the timeline that's on the actual clock so that they can see what's going on, it was able to really give everybody that I shared it to a very like vivid and visceral idea of what exactly is going to happen. And they were able to actually get into it like very, very quickly. And they're like, yes, I can see exactly what you're talking about. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do when you're kind of in this early like planning stages. So this is something I wanted to kind of share with you guys at this point right now. End of February, nothing has been filmed yet, but just to put it out there, it's like in that time that it took me to make this, I spent a few hours kind of just like developing my story, creating the score, doing the Foley, and then sharing it to some friends. And I had so many people that were like really excited to be able to come back and help me make this. I already have a place booked for the shoot, and at this point I've been actually testing out shooting with my phone more and more often. I wanted to kind of test different like film profiles. I wanted to see what it's like to shoot log on it. What's the workflow transferring it from my phone to my computer. I don't want to have any guesswork or any hiccups or anything while I'm actually going through this, because I'm going to have such a short window to be able to make this the way that I wanted to. And if you guys are actually down with this, I would really love it if you would actually share this video with a friend, or maybe like on one of your Facebook channels or something like that. Kind of give it to somebody that might actually find some value in what I was trying to share here with this video. You know, it's not too late for you guys to actually make your own videos for this Moment Invitational, and all it takes is just using an iPhone, and I think that's something so cool. So if you guys haven't already yet, just get out there and share it with a friend. You can go down there and leave me a comment, because I love getting back to you guys and just kind of answering any questions you might have. And maybe you guys can actually get out there and just like and subscribe to this video as well. But until next time, guys, I am Bobby Hicks, and I am this fellow.